Hello crazy coders, welcome to the second video of our clean code principle series. In this video we will learn what are comments and how to use them effectively to increase your code readability and make it look more professional. So without further ado, let's get started. So first thing, what are comments? So comments are a piece of code ignored by the compiler or interpreter during the execution of the program. Okay, so basically when you add a comment in your code base or code file during the execution of the program, the compiler or the interpreter, whichever programming language you use, will ignore that piece of code and consider it as not a part of a program. Okay, but you can see it will be there, but compiler will not recognize it as a part of the code file. Okay, that's what our comments are. So how to use them? There are different formats for different languages, and also some of the languages share same format, and such as C, C++, Java, JavaScript have forward slash. You have to put double forward slash and then you can add single line comment, and if you want to use multi-line comment you have to use this format like slash and star and end with star and slash. In Python also it's very simple. If it's hashtag for single line comment, and if you want to add multi-line comment you have to add triple quotes, and in between them you can add multi-line comments. Okay, so that's great. Comments are amazing, but by just adding the comment does not increase the readability of the code. First, let's talk about how not to use comments. If you use comments in this way, then it will ruin your code. The readability of your code will decrease. Okay, the first thing is explaining unclear code is a bad practice, because as you can see here we have a variable named a contains a student name, and here I added a comment. Basically this is a Python code, so Python comment printing the name of the student, and I am printing a. So that's actually clear. I mean, you would understand that okay, printing a means printing name of student means a will contain name of the student. But the most important part of this is an unclear code, as we already discussed in our first video of our series, that the first thing you should care about is making your variable and functions more clear. That's the way to make your code readable. So after fulfilling that condition only, you should think about comment. This code line does not fulfill the first condition, that is naming a variable appropriately. So that's why if you even try to write comments, it will not help, because it's just ruining entire thing. And if you add like perfect names to the variable, then you will not even need a comment. So never ever explain unclear code. Make your code clean rather. Okay, the second way to not use comments is to explain obvious code. You never use comments to explain obvious code. That's true, because like in this code line we have a variable name age, which is basically an integer of containing 18, and we have a variable name which is containing a string name, and I am actually checking in an if statement, that is if age is greater than 18 or not, and if it's greater than 18 we go into if block and we do something. Okay, as you can see I have added this comment like checking if age greater than 18. Of course this will not be considered by the interpreter since it's Python, and the execution will move on. But if you already know that if statement does that if age is greater than 18, okay, this is very readable, and this is so obvious that there is no need of this comment, the if age greater than 18. Okay, we don't need this comment, and that's what it means. We don't need comments that explain obvious things, and 13 is so obvious by this line, we don't need this comment. Moving ahead with the second example, here I have one example. Here I am printing the name of the student using f string, and also using f string makes your code more readable. That's why this comment does not make any sense. I am just this comment says printing name of the student, but if you just read this code of line, that is print f string name of the student and name, by itself it's very clear that we are printing a name of student, so we don't need this. So these are the two ways to never use comments, that is explain unclear code, make your code clean, then think if comment is needed or not, and to explain obvious code. Never use comments to explain obvious code. We don't need this. Okay, it's very obvious by just looking at this line of code. Okay, that's the advantage of clean code. You just require less comments. And moving ahead to how to use comments, this is very important, because this will add to more readability. Like if you have a clear code, then if you use comments correct way, then it will make your code more readable. Okay, the first thing is to explain unidiomatic code in comments. So what does unidiomatic code code means. Okay, basically this is the example I took from this reference. So this is an example of non-idiomatic Python code, and this is an example of idiomatic Python code. So basically we have a list, we are creating a new list by multiplying every number by 2. Same thing we are doing it here, but here we are using list comprehension feature of Python, which makes it more fast. And since it's in feature of Python, it's an idiomatic way of coding in Python. But if you are anyhow using an idiomatic approach, then you should actually mention it why you are using it, because they might change it to idiomatic if you are working in a group. Okay, that's the thing. If you are not using obvious way of doing it, then please explain that why you are choosing this type of method. The second thing is using docstrings to explain function, what function does. So what docstrings are basically after the declaration of function, basically then you add triple quotes, and in that you whatever you add, what becomes its docstring. So basically it is like a documentation, and you can use it to explain what it does. So for example, this is the name of a video file, a function which takes file path as a string and returns a string. So what I have done is basically a function to get the name of the file from its path. That's what a function does. This adds more readability to this function, because by the name itself it's not very clear. We cannot make this big file function name, so that's why this comment adds to the readability. And the third way to use comment is to provide links for external reference. Many times we use Stack Overflow code, internet code, basically googling out, and if we use that code and we do not provide references that I have used this code from that in our code file, then we might even forget that why we are using it. Okay, then we can actually go to the reference and understand better that yeah, this is why I was using it and this makes sense. So basically we don't have a good memory of remembering past things until we are using it again. So that's why it's very important to add links for external references. For it will help you also, but also whoever is reading it after a while, and also if your code read by someone else. So that's our 3 ways you can use your comments to make your more code readable. So there are some rules also. The one rule it's very important, like I actually consider it very important. It is, if you can't write a clear comment, there may be a problem with your code. This is the first rule. And second rule is, comments should dispel confusion and not cause it. So basically what first rule says is, if you are unable to get a clear comment on whatever you are doing, then there may be a problem with your code. You are not doing what you want to do correctly. That's why you are not able to explain it through your comments. So first you have to fix the code, and then you have to add a clear comment. So that's why adding a clear comment to whatever function or like a process you do is very important. Then it also clarifies that yeah, you are also clear and the code is also doing that thing. Okay, and comment should dispel confusion and not cause it. So basically what happens is, if you write unclear comment to a problematic code, then it will cause confusion. And never add a comment or to a code that is not true, or basically it just causes more confusion. Like, you know, instead of explaining it and making more readable, you are just causing it more problem. These are the rules. So I think yeah, that's how you use comments to make your more code readable. Thank you for watching. We will catch you up in the next video.